So what we're doing, there's several things that we can attack this, or not attack, but to approach it. So these are the samples, and I kind of really wanted to, it's sort of a lead to something else, but I found that these were just fun paintings on their own. I really didn't intend them to be, but I thought they looked really cool just as a painting. When I put it up in my, kind of hung it up, I thought, oh, these are nice. But the intention is to create a celestial or kind of a galaxy kind of finish so that we can do some other things. But it's really the process right now that we're going to have fun with. But just kind of to lead you to what's happening is I made this little book and I started painting in it this weekend. So I made these little circles, which I'm going to doodle in. But for what we're going to do, we can create our own little circles based on our galaxies here. Instead of painting it directly into the journal, we can actually, excuse me, paint them ahead of time. And then I'm going to encourage you, if you don't have these already, or something like these little hole punches. I've been I used to have like a bunch of hole punches, with all the shapes and the, funny little, bows and the little frogs and animals. But I've kept, and I got rid of all those because I just didn't need them. But I kept these, and these have been something I've been using for years, just because they're real basic shapes and they kind of nest into each other. So I've got a 1 inch, a 1 1/4, and a 1 1/2 inch circle punch. These are made by EK Success, and I got them at Michael's, and I would pick up one, when I'd go in the store, I'd pick up get my 40% off, and they were probably, whatever the price was. So just that's something where you want to maybe think about if you don't have it. And we're not doing this today, but what I do is I take, I cut out I punch holes to my galaxy paintings, and then I can doodle on these later, which will then go into these books as we progress into the series. But for today, we're going to just do galaxies, and we're going to have fun just kind of blending colors together and playing with just seeing how paints flow. And what I have here are and I wanted to share this with you because I discovered this paper it's actually really reasonable. It's for a pack of, 12 sheets. It's huge. It's really the size that we need to make these little journals. Just, we need a large piece of paper. And I found that most of the blocks were really expensive. But this is a pad, and you get 12 nice thick sheets. These are 140 pound. It's not cotton. It has a little cotton content in it, but it is really great. It takes the watercolor really well. In fact, that's what I used to make these, and I also used it to make this little journal. And on Dick Blick, it was really inexpensive. I think these were like $16 for 12 sheets, and that's a really good price. So they kind of come out like this. You just tear them out, and I was able to cut mini strips for my journal. And they're just really, really nice for the price. And I wanted to share that because I know watercolor paper is expensive, but this is actually great. As far as kind of an entry level, but still really good results. So I wanted to tell you.
What size?
It's about 12 by 17. It's basically, they have the funniest sizes, 11.7 inches by 16.5 inches. So it's roughly a little, it's a good size. Like under 12 by 17, which is a weird size, but it's really good for what we're going to be doing in the future. So just wanted to let you know that's available.
Thank you.
Yes, and so I've cut them up. I cut my sheets up, and I'm just going to mask them. And the only reason I'm masking them is just to give them, just so I can so that they'll lay flat. But you don't have to mask yours if you don't want to. So just going to do it though, because it just helps to give a little, of course it'd be nice if I put it on straight. Here we go. Give you a border, plus it helps to hold the paint or hold the paper down while you're getting it wet. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do some real wet washes. And if you don't have them out already, get some paints, watercolors, acrylic inks even if you have them, or if you have this kind of ink here. This is not ink, it's actually a watercolor, but it's in a fluid, it's already fluid. This is Dr. Martin's Hydrous, but also just your your watercolors that you have, whatever you've got in your kit. You don't have to get anything special, but whatever you have, get blues, get an arrangement of blues, or have ready some blue and even yellow and some magenta. I would try to stay away from opaque colors right now. So if you have any cadmiums, or just don't use those. Just try to make sure that they're transparent, because when these are going to mix together on the paper, we're not going to pre-mix them. We'll do that on the paper. So if you have opaque colors, you may get a muddy result. So let's just try to stay away from, just try to have them as transparent as possible. You'll also need some white inks, something white. I've got pen white here, which I really like, Dr. Martin's pen white. There's this other stuff, it's white ink. It's just a highly opaque white ink. You can use either those, or gouache, or a white pen, if you have a white kind of pen like this. So you just need something white. If you have metallic watercolors, that's great too, because those will give some nice, fun, shimmery effects. And get yourself enough water and some nice big brushes. Like I have this brush here that I'm going to use. That's my oval, just an oval wash brush, but you can use a flat wash brush, or just a big round one, kind of like a big fat round one like that. And make sure you have plenty of water. For making the details of the galaxy, you need a toothbrush if you have an old one. I think I listed it on the website, but like a toothbrush, a little fine tip brush. Earlier this weekend, I couldn't find a toothbrush. In fact, that's not an old one, that's my husband's new one, and I had to take it from him. But I couldn't find anything I could splatter with, so I was looking around all over the place. I found this is for cleaning leather, and I figured that would work for splattering. I'm going to try that. This was something that I found in my bathroom I just never used. So it's something with a stiff bristle, if you have that. And so now I've got 3 surfaces. I'm going to just go ahead and start masking yours, and I'm going to even do a third one just to have ready, because I'm going to try 3 different ways to do this galaxy thing. And what you're doing is you're going to make pretty nice backgrounds. This is really the intent, is for making backgrounds. But if they turn into beautiful paintings, then that's great too. But your backgrounds are really what we're going to go after. And we're going to do one really saturated, and one kind of medium toned, and then one a little bit lighter. So that's if you have 3 sheets. If you don't, 2 sheets is fine, because you'll do one and really light and one kind of dark. One thing I forgot to get is a spray bottle, if you have that available. In fact, I'll just grab one. A spray bottle with water in it is helpful if you have it. If you don't, that's okay, just as long as you have plenty of water. A paper towel. Please make sure you have some kind of paper towel also, or tissue, or even like some Kleenex, because this will help in your blotting to create kind of when you're blotting the color out, it actually lifts it to give it that more galaxy kind of look. So let's go for it. All right. All right, so I'm going to start with, I'm just going to show you how cool these Hydrous watercolors are, and then I'll go into the standard watercolors so you can see. And I'm going to bring my camera just down a little bit closer, I think. There you go. So you can kind of see what's going on. Let's see if I got that. There we are. Yep, there we go. So there, that should be able, you can see that. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just got some trays here. I'm going to start with the first one, and I'm going to I'll start with the kind of a dark saturated one. So the first thing I do is I want to dampen the paper. I'm just going to do that with my little oval wash brush. Just take a little water, and I'm going to dampen it. You can also spray it if you want, but I'm going to just kind of dampen it. Not so that we want it to be wet, but not super shiny wet. So like, you don't want it dripping. You want it just to be dampened. And actually, it's really important to keep your paper wet at all times, whether it be with water or just the paper, or the paint. You just want to keep it wet like this. So if I turn it, you can kind of see there's some shine to it to make sure it stays like that. And if it doesn't, just keep adding water. If you see a little spot dry out, kind of keep an eye on it because you want the colors to blend. So, and this particular paper that I'm using does kind of dry fast. I'm noticing, I could even spritz it with water. I notice it does kind of dry. It seems to absorb the paint faster. So it's really important to keep it wet. So I'm going to show you with the Dr. Martens. Now, these are transparent colors. This is Hansa yellow, medium. This is phthalo blue, which is always phthalo. Anything phthalo, if it says phthalo, it's going to be a transparent color. And quinacridones, any of those. This one is quinacridone magenta. These are my 3 go-to colors. I use them in acrylics. I use them in watercolors. These will be transparent. So those are always something to have in your palette. I think I've mentioned it before, but just, it's nice because they will not make mud no matter whatever you do with them. I also have some white, but for this first galaxy, I've got it wet and I'm just gonna make sure I keep it wet. So just kind of move that water around. And the first thing I'm going to do is go with the light color first, and then I'm going to bring in the dark. I also have I'm going to probably make some of this ahead of time because I don't have any black or dark colors in the Hydrous. I'm going to mix some Payne's Gray from a tube because it's going to be my dark. And I'm just going to put lots of it in there. Payne's Gray is a nice bluish green, or not blue-green. It's sort of a bluish gray color, and it's really a nice color. It's almost black, but not quite black. So I'm just kind of getting that ready. So once I start putting the color down, this thing happens really fast. So we don't want to labor on it too much. So I've got the wet going on, and the first thing I'll do is add a little of the light, starting with the light. And if you're not using a liquid light watercolor like this, go ahead and use something from your watercolor collection, a light color, a yellow, but don't go too orange. So I'm just going to drop I'm just going to do 3 spots, 3 things of yellow. I'm just going to drop them in there. Boom. I'm not going to think about it too much. And now I'm going to take the next color is this magenta because I don't want blue next to my yellow. If I put blue next to my yellow, what's going to happen is I'll get green, and I don't want green in my galaxy. I want blues and I want oranges, but I don't want green. So now I've got this moving around, and now I'm going to put the blue. This is the phthalo blue. And I'm just going to put more blue than anything else. And I'm kind of going on the outside. Here we are. So it's kind of moving around because it's wet, and that's good. And now what I'm going to do is try to spread them out. And I've got my black or this color I can introduce that. So I'm just going to start blending it outwardly. And really not trying, I just want to move the color around. It's kind of sitting there, so I need to move it around. But I'm going to move it from the center of those yellow parts outwards. I see I mixed some of the blue with the green. It's now green, but oh well, it's okay. And I can just move it around. I don't have to cover up I don't have to cover up any of the whites. I don't have to do any of that. Just going to kind of let that move around. So there's that. And then what I might do now is I'm seeing while it's still wet, work while it's still wet. And I may decide to and I've got a paper towel, so I'm going to just see what's happening here. I see a little puddle here that I don't really like, and it's sort of mixing with a little bit of the blues mixing with the yellow, and it's kind of becoming green. And here I've got one little bright spot here. So basically I'm trying to retain some of the highlights here. There, I've got 3 going like this. And what I can do is I'm not ready yet, but I will be ready. I'm going to add some of my gray or my dark color. And I'm going to bring that from the outside, basically going to go in. And we're not thinking too much about it. We're just just making colors happen. And darker on the outside, and maybe some, if you don't have this color, you can use something in your collection like, I've got some blues here. I've got, let's see, I've got some Payne's Gray here in this one. You can even use black ink. If you have some Sumi ink, you can do that. But this is our darker galaxy. So I'm going to just stop that here. And now I'm going to lift out color if, it's dark enough. So now I'm going to just take my little paper towel, and I'm just going to maybe take a section of it, or if you have some Kleenex, you can actually just take it, and if you want to bring out some lights, you just kind of blot, and you could pull colors, you could pull some of that color up if you want. Here, so I'm just I'm gonna make it like maybe 5 little areas where I'm pulling out some of the color. There we go, like that. So I've got this very ethereal thing going. That was a mouthful, ethereal thing. So just gonna let that, now if you have a hairdryer or something kind of like this, you wanna kind of hit it with heat. I see a lot of bright colors there, and maybe I like that, maybe I don't. The pink is a little probably too intense for my needs, but hey, I'll go with it. I'm not gonna worry. But if I wanted to dull it down a little bit, I could put some colors in there, but I'm just going to leave it. It should be a very electric galaxy. So I'm just going to kind of dry that off a little bit. Or if I wanted to, I can just move on to the next, but just give this a little bit of a little drying time. And if I want to now, while it's still wet, I'm going to just add a little dark on this outside because it needs it. There we are. Yep, dark on the outsides, and then you can see there's going to be a division in, there we go. Just going to do it like that. So this will be our the dark one. But I'm going to move on while this one is, now that it's kind of dryish, it's not dry totally, but it's dry enough. I'm going to do a lighter one on this one, and I'm not going to use these. I'll just use a regular watercolor. Get just one of these. Maybe I'll do a kind of a combination of blues. I won't even put pink in it. Let's try just doing blue only. And I do have some leftover blue here, and I don't want to lose that. So I'm going to just do a gray, kind of a wash of blue that's already there because I don't want to waste it. And that's pretty intense. It's pretty dark. So that's okay. So now I've got this beautiful blue going on here like this. And that's my wet wash, but now it's already blue. And then I'm just going to take some color, maybe some gray, some of this beautiful Payne's gray, and then move it in. I'm just not going to go as dark as this one. And then I think I'll take a little bit of blue that's up in here. There's some, which one is this one? Oh, that looks kind of good. I don't know what blue it is, but that might be a turquoise. Nope, that's a nice indigo color. So just going to drop some other blues. And I noticed that this brush I'm using kind of creates a weird brush stroke that I'm not really that excited about for this. So I'm going to try a different brush. I'm going to try my round brush and see how it works. It's actually it makes it more of a brush stroke. So I'm leaving that alone. I'm going to go back to my old brush. But remember, these are really going to be cut out. These are not paintings in their own right. So they're going to be cut out. And then I'll just throw a little bit of that. So this one's going to be more of a 1-color or 2-color galaxy. Maybe I could add a different kind of blue in this one. You're just kind of making a wet wash, wet into wet, and that's important. Keep it wet into wet. And when you first look at it, you'll have the urge to want to just really overbrush it, and you won't need to because the brush or the colors will work. They'll blend themselves. So I'm going to let that sit, and I'm going to do one a little bit lighter. I'll move it over to the side, and I bring over this one. And I'm going to try some other colors, just colors that maybe I wouldn't think of. And I've got lots of blue here. So I'm going to go ahead and do another blue wash, light blue, because my water is already blue, and that's okay. It's a very soft, I don't even know if you can see that because I'll just add a little more blue to it so you can see. It seems like I see my picture is really washed out. Can you see what I'm doing, or is it just really washed out? Yeah, okay. So I don't know how to fix that. Oh, I know how to fix it. It'll take me a second. I'm just gonna go into my camera settings because I see it's just like, what I'm doing is a lot darker than what you see. So I'm gonna just fix that real quick. It'll take me a second. Oh, I see why. Ooh. There we are. It should be better. It's a little better. Okay. So now I'm going to just put some color down, or this is kind of what I already had in it's now my water. It's pretty dark. If you want to see, this water is like intensely blue. So that's good. And now I'm just going to take I'm going to do a little purple, just bring in some colors that you don't think you would think would be in a sky, but just bring in some colors and just move them around into your wet wash. Let's see, these are going to be lighter, so I'm just going to go a little on the lighter. I'm going to add a different kind of purple. And then I don't want to add greens. That's the only thing I'm going to stay away from. I will I'll use blues and magentas and purples, but I think green is not going to do well in this mix. And you can see these colors are kind of spreading around really nice in here. And this is the core watercolor, and they tend to push other colors out of the way, which I think is interesting. I'm going to throw in a little turquoise because I just love it, turquoise. And this is much lighter the wash is much lighter than the other two. So that first one was a kind of a dark wash. Second one is a medium, and the third is a light. Just kind of let the colors mix with each other. All right, I might be going too dark, but I'm just gonna let that do its thing. Okay, leave it alone. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to overwork it. So now I've got this light, and it will dry a lot lighter, so I'll just go ahead and hit it with this dryer. This one's really wet. Got a nice wet puddle there, which I can always, if I want to, I can take that while it's still wet. If you have a wet puddle and you want to just lighten it up a little, you just take your paper towel or your tissue and kind of round it out a little bit, or just kind of, you can actually blot the color out, and it gives you that nice soft blend, kind of a planetary looking thing, which is what I'm looking for. So that gets rid of that stuff, and it also lightens stuff out. And I'll see if I can do that on this medium one as well. I could probably take some areas here and lighten these, which I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going in and taking my towel, and I'm just creating like nebulae, kind of interesting kind of areas where I'm also blotting out the excess paint. So if you do that, it looks really great. Same thing here. I can do the same thing over here. Just blot out those extra puddles. Plus it gives it a texture. And I always rotate my wrist while I'm working that. And these are looking kind of like what I wanted to. I'm hoping that you're having fun. And it's definitely a messy thing. I've got paint all over me. So if you feel like you're getting messy, it's meant to be, because it is you're covering a lot of surface area with your paint. And it gets all over the place. And then when we do the splattering, it's going to even get more crazy. So you can add metallics if you want to this this is really pretty if you add metallics as well. That would actually, metallics tend to spread. But the thing that I've learned that metallics do, they will prevent you, if you wanted to doodle over it, they're a little harder to doodle over because of their, I guess, whatever they're made of, the pigment composition or whatever it's made of. So I'm just blotting off areas that have too much water, just to get that done. You can even take your sides and just kind of get off that water. So that's that one. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to bring in these and kind of work on these a little bit till they're totally dry. You see how intense these Hydrous watercolors, how much more intense they are than even just the standard watercolors. So you can get a dark color with these, but you have to really get a lot of watercolor in there. But these Hydrous just really make it pretty intense and dark. Okay, so the next step. I think with this one I'm going to do some splattering, and on these I'm going to doodle only, so I'm not going to splatter these yet. Okay, now everything's dry. So, ready for this one. And I'm going to cover up, I think I need to mask off this because the splattering tends to get everywhere. So what you could do is just kind of take a piece of paper and just cover up if you have two pieces that you're working on, because that is going to go everywhere. And if I can grab my tape, there it is. Just going to put a little piece of tape on that just so it won't go away. There it is. So now I am ready for white, to add my white. And there's different ways to do that. So first one I'm going to do is the one that I know works. It's this one. This is a liquid white, but like I said, you can use the splattering part. You do need some, you have a pen to do the detailing later, but if you have gouache or the pen white or anything white, I like to stir it up or, shake it. And I'm going to put it in a dish. And there it is. I think I have enough for that one. And then what I'm going to do is this is where it gets messy, but I'm going to start with this toothbrush because hopefully everybody has a toothbrush. And I'm just going to, you could try it first, get your toothbrush, saturated with the ink, and then try it on something that you don't care about, just to make sure it's working. Or if you can be bold and crazy like me, I'm just going to do it. Now, if you want to be careful about getting paint on your hand, you should wear a rubber glove. I don't care because it's just white watercolor. It's going to wash off easily, but it will make my hands messy. But what I'm going to do is just take it, and I'm going to just take it with my finger, and I'm just splattering it. And I'm doing it kind of in a random way. You can see. And since I want this to be a galaxy, I want it to kind of have with the Milky Way, how it has more concentration of white or stars. So I'm just going to kind of go like heavy duty in the center kind of. And I'm getting a nice, beautiful, really nice splatter here. I noticed that they're very fine. There we go. There, I've got that. Now, because that's so fine, I need a thicker splatter. So what I should do is I'm going to wipe this off. And to make a thicker splatter, you would probably want to get a brush because a brush will make kind of fatter, it'll make a thicker splatter. So I'm going to just take my brush and I'm going to do the same thing. I've got it dampened and I'm going to put it in my ink and really get it loaded up. And now I'm going to hit it with my finger. I'm just going to drop it. It's not doing it. Come on. It's not loaded enough. It needs to be really loaded. So now I'm just going to tap it and I'm not getting them. There we go. If that happens, because this ink is so thick, I guess I have to thin it with water, maybe. I'll try it that way. Well, or also what I could do, because there we go. Now I got my thick pieces. If you are concerned about having too much, or not enough control, another way to get your thicker line or thicker areas is to just go ahead and use your pen. So you've got your fine little sparkles, and if you find that maybe you blob too much, you can always blot it with your paper towel, and that really does some nice things too because it looks like little stars. For me, I'm just going to take my pen, and now I'm going to create kind of stars a little bit thicker or bigger. And really, too, with a pen, you can also draw the little reflections or whatever they're called. These little parts here, these little parts that reflect out the star shapes, the refractive, the nature that makes them look like stars. So just going to put some little spots here, all kind of random. And I even did in my last one, I made like a little Orion, or you can do the Big Dipper, whatever you want to do to make kind of it work. You can use real stars to map out your doodle, your lines or your dots. Think of the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Orion. What are the other stars? There's a lot of them. A lot of ones out there. So that's one way to do it. The other way is if you have a really fine brush. This is kind of fine. I hope it works. Is you take your brush, like a fine little brush, and you can create your star little, like here, I'll just go in and I'll just go up a little bit and just down, kind of not trying, I'm going from the center out to create that kind of star thing going on. But a really small, very delicate lines. So I'm just going to do that in a few areas. I'm just going to go like this. And it's harder to control the pen, the brush, than the pen's a lot easier to control. And of course, I guess maybe it's my brush because my little star. Now this one I like a lot, this one down here, but this one I'm not really fond of. So the good news is I can actually go back in with my brush and I'm going to take it and wet it right where I just did that little thing because I'm not really fond of it. And I just made a blot and now I'm going to pick it up and it's gone. So I can go back and read and do it again. So that's the neat part. You can kind of erase, kind of crazy. So as long as my area is dry, I'm going to dry these little blobs here. Because if I want to go back in with the pen, you want it to be perfectly dry because your pen will stop working. We don't want our pens to stop working. And I think I did actually cause my pen to sort of stop. And when that happens, if you have one of these types, this is an acrylic paint marker. If you have one of these types, you just shake it. That gets it that mixes up the color. And then you just gently depress just gently to get the flow going, and then just draw a little bit just to make sure everything's flowing, and then proceed to make your beautiful stars. Just make stars. Just pick an area where you want to make a star, and then just do your thing and just draw it outward like that. And just do it randomly on your painting or your picture. But really, this isn't meant to be a painting, so of course that one, because they look cool, we're still going to cut these up. Maybe not all of them, because if you like one you want to keep and you want to just save your galaxy because it takes you to another place, then definitely keep it. So I'm noticing I'm clogging my pen because I'm not waiting for it to dry. So at this time you can just take your time and make little stars, however you want them, just little stars. And my ink is just kind of acting weird. This is the time you'll get to know what your colors can do or what they can't do, or what your whites can do, what they can't do. So there we go, got like that going on. So that's very celestial, very galaxy-like. I could add more, but I'm going to just leave it like this for now, and I'm going to move on to my other one. Actually, I was going to leave it alone, but no. And I love that I can actually just blot out stuff that I know, which actually kind of recedes this. It makes things go back a little, which is neat. So that's that one. And now this one. And of course, when I'm finished with it, once I take the tape off, it's a whole new look, just different looking. Now this one, I think it needs, what does it need? I'm going to leave it like this. I could do another layer of something over it, but I think I'm just going to leave it, or I could add some sprinkles to it, which I'll go ahead and add some white ink. I'll just splatter it with white. Oh, that's fun. So I just kind of did a whole thing with that. And that really makes a huge difference, you know, that white sort of splattering. And it would look also really great with metallic, like silver or pearl color. There we go. And there I've got another galaxy going on there. So same thing, I will add a little white, some kind of white highlight that are just a little bit bigger. Maybe just bring out some stars just to get them bigger. And I'm actually using the paint that's already on there because it's kind of, you know, it goes on kind of thick. Now I've got that going. I'm just going to leave that one there. That one looks pretty cool on its own. Don't need to do anything else, I don't think. There we go. So that's that one. And then this one looks like, because it's so light, I think I'll do a splattering of dark just for fun, see what happens. Or metallics would really be cool on that. So if you have some metallics, or I could go light. It really doesn't matter. But because I said I'd try the darker, I think I'm going to try it and see what happens. So it's good to wipe off. If you have more than one toothbrush, that's great. But if you don't, make sure you get all the white out of your toothbrush. And I'm going to splatter some of this blue, this liquid blue, since it's already liquid. I already have it. And maybe I'll add a little bit of Payne's Gray to that blue. And this, what's nice about the liquid watercolors, these are all compatible with each other. The liquid and the tubed they're all fine with each other. So now I got that. And now I'm going to just take it and see what happens. I've never done the dark into it. We'll see what goes on. If I could spritz a little water. This is an experiment, but if I spritz a little water, it's dry, but just a little here and there. And I want to see what happens because it's going to probably do something. Wow. So I'm just going to see if whatever I spritz, it should just blend. That's kind of fun doing it. And now I've got stuff everywhere. You'll notice that you'll have stuff. You're going to have watercolor everywhere. So if you're worried about like a carpet, or if you're working in a room where you worry about your floor, make sure you put something down on the floor because it getting everywhere. And on my clothes, I did find some on my clothes the other day. So all that happens. So I'm just going to kind of do this, and then I'm seeing it's not blending as much as I wanted to. So I'm going to take my brush and just move it around a little bit and see what happens. And all of this is going to be into another, this one I know I'm going to use in my backgrounds. And I see that even, some of the splatters are still showing. So I can actually just put a whole new layer of color over it. Wow, that's fun. So that's the thing about these, is you can just experiment, play, and see try different colors that you have. Just kind of play around with it. It's going to add darks. I want more darks. I do like going over it with the white afterwards. Now I'm just going to blot it, and then I'm going to let that sit and leave it alone so that I can doodle over it. I will be able to have some time to doodle. Maybe just bring out the lights, and I'll just leave that alone. Karen can overwork things sometimes. So you can see we've got three, like this is one galaxy, and I'm going to take off the tape, and you'll see this one I'll leave alone. I'll take off the tape on this one, and you'll see how it will, and I can always work on it later. But now, one thing that happens with tape, and I noticed this happened the other day too, yesterday, or it was, when I use the heat gun, the tape actually melts and it's not happy. So I had some bleeding underneath, so this won't be a perfect painting, but I could always trim it, if I want. And I can just trim off the edges. If I wanted to use it as a background for a card or something like that, or just as a painting on its own, I can always trim off that because some of that definitely bled through. You could see it just went underneath. But wasn't really masking it for the, to really make a nice edge anyway, but there it is. So that one's that one, and I'll just, so compared to the other one, it's pretty similar. And that's going to be fun to cut up. Now this one too, so it's almost dry, but I'll go ahead and take this off too. And because I think this, I didn't really wet it as much because I've got a nice crisp edge on these with my masking tape. Okay, I'm just going to pick that up, get that off. So that one's done. It looks very, very, very galaxy-like. I feel like that one turned out really nice, and that was actually less labored than the other one. So it's just kind of funny how, and just giving it that sweep of white, kind of in a section like this, gave it more that Milky Way look. And I'm just going to let that sit like that, and then this one, I'm going to hit it with the dryer because it's still wet. That's dry enough now. And I'm going to take the tape off this too, because I want to show you what I do, how it looks when you punch them out. And that's why I'm encouraging everyone to get a punch for your our following few weeks. Ooh, that tore that. Oh, that's terrible. That's from not having it dry. So, but that's all right because I'm just using it. It's not like a finished piece, so that's okay. I'm going to grab a pair of scissors. And I'm going to not worry about it. I'm going to kind of cut these up into sections because I need to have room to put my insert the circle punch. So on one that you don't like or you tore, like I just tore the paper on that one, these are great ways to use watercolor. If you have watercolors that you just don't know what to do with, this is it right here. So I'm going to just take my circle punch. And I'm looking for, it looks, when you cut it out, I see clouds here. So I'm just going to punch it. And I've got one here. And I'll do another one. So I'll have several pieces to work with here that I'm going to doodle on. And I'll doodle on with the white pen. Also, if you have the other side. So this is the 1.5 inch size. And I'll just do some in a little smaller size. And I like these punches because you can find out where you want to place the hole, so you can make if you see something that you really like, an area that you really like, you can position it and then just punch it out. These, let's see, I'm going to take one of these. I can also cut this one out, like here. This is the one I just did, the dark one. I can take some areas out that I like. There's one I like. And see how I just made a nice little, almost like looks like really cool stuff. So just punch out when you do find that you have some that you really like, just punch them out. And then next week, or actually tomorrow during Craft and Tea, and for next week, we'll be constructing I think we'll do some doodling on these so that you'll have time to get your papers for your book. So we're going to do some doodling on some of these. So save the one that you like if you like one of your paintings, save it. And if you want one to make into these circular dot things, you'll have one of those. Now, if you don't have a circle cutter, you can also cut it out. It's not fun, but you can take make a circle, trace a circle with your with any kind of template, and then just cut. Take some scissors and cut. That's something you can do too. Like, let's say, I don't want you to have to buy a bunch of stuff, but let's say if you had to, and you had a circle, let's grab this. Let's say this was just something I had that's round. You can even use the bottom of a bottle. You can create your circle, actually do it on the other side of the paper. Make your circle. I like the punches because it's really fun and easy, but you don't have to go out and buy that. And then just cut with scissors and just cut around your circle that you drew, and you'll have just as nice of a circle as you had that you punched. So I really am not trying to get you to buy new stuff. I just happen to love my circle punches, and if you're a craft hoarder like me, you'll want them if you want to do lots of things with circles. You can make banners and all kinds of stuff, but here I was able to make a nice circle the same way with scissors and just a little circle template. In fact, I can't tell the difference.